Hello, agents. Welcome to the Film Nuts Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor D. Adams. We've got a great show for you today. The Bourne Identity, starring Matt Damon, was originally released back in 2002 and spawned a franchise that included 5 total films over 14 years. Based on the novel by Robert Ludlum of the same name, the movie tells the story of a man suffering from amnesia that struggles to regain his memory while being chased by government agents and assassins. I'm discussing the film with voice actor Donovan Corneetz, who is without a doubt the best sounding guest we've had on this podcast. He joins me from his home studio in Atlanta to tell me why this fun, action-packed popcorn film has a deeper meaning to him, and how almost 20 years later, the movie's iconic action sequences are still ingrained in our memory. Also, we kind of spoiled the franchise as a whole, just a heads up. So, here's Donovan Corneetz talking The Bourne Identity on the Film Nuts Podcast.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to remain busy, if not get busier, because there's so many more people watching TV and listening to radio now than ever before, it seems, at least in the last few years, for sure. So the need for people like me has actually grown a little bit. So I'm very, very fortunate, very happy to stay busy. And thank you for asking me to do this.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm glad you came on. It's kind of cool to ask different people to come and do this, because finding out what people's favorite movie or show is really neat. Because sometimes it's a movie that I haven't seen before, and sometimes it's a movie that I haven't seen since it first came out, like The Bourne Identity. Like, I can't think of the last time I saw this movie, but when you said you want to talk about The Bourne Identity, I was like, okay, yeah. It's I want to revisit this because I remember really enjoying it. I rewatched it, I think 2 nights ago with my girlfriend, and after we looked at each other and we were like, this is still good. Like, this is a solid solid action movie.
It really is. It's funny because when you asked me about it, pick your favorite movie, TV show, and I was immediately like, oh, okay, Bourne Identity. Like, I mean, it was the first thing I thought of, but then I kind of doubted it, and I said, no, man, like, it's supposed to be something meaningful and something with some spiritual thing it awakened inside of me. And then I said, nah, screw that, man. Like, this is one of my favorite movies. I've seen it. I'm the opposite of you. I can't count how many times I've seen it.
Wow.
And the sequels, except for that little offshoot one that didn't have
the Jeremy Renner one.
Yeah, the Jeremy Renner one was like, which was okay, but probably had the worst ending ever for an action movie. If you recall, it was like this big lead up to this big boss fight, right? Like the big boss level at the end of a video game. Like, there's the big protagonist and antagonist, and they come together, and then he's like, I don't know, spoiler alert, but like crashes into a damn, like they're doing a big chase motorcycle, and the guy just like crashes into a post. It's like,
I remember
they didn't even fight.
Being very disappointed about that movie.
Yeah, they didn't even fight. He just like got into a motorcycle crash in the chase scene, and then he just takes off on a boat. It's like, what the hell? So yeah, other than that one, I've seen all of them and enjoyed all of them immensely. But the Bourne Identity, I had to pick it up. I had to pick that one because it kind of got it started for me. And there is kind of a little deeper meaning that I did find within it that I guess we can get to later. But my first instinct was just like, God, I love this movie. So yeah.
Well, let's dive right into that then. Like, what? Tell me why. Like, tell me why this is your favorite movie.
Okay, so strictly on the it's just an awesome movie side, without getting into the deeper meaning. Like, I remember seeing this in the theaters and being blown away by the story. Now, I had not heard of the book, right? The very popular book. I think it was written in the 60s or something, or 70s.
I think early 80s, I think I saw.
All right, yeah, getting it mixed up with something else. Yeah, 80s. So I had no idea about it. And so I didn't come in with any expectation of like, what's this about? I had no clue. And I don't know, just the factor of, okay, here's this guy, from his perspective, he wakes up, right, by getting pulled out of the ocean, and he has no idea who the hell he is, no idea, like just imagine you wake up and you're on a boat in the middle of nowhere, you have no idea who you are, where you are, who anyone else is that's in your face, and people are asking you, hey, who are you? Why did you have this thing in your hip that shines a bank account number on the wall? Like,
What the hell are you doing to me? No, Salva, What are you doing? God damn it, where am I?
A boat! A fishing boat! You were in the water! We pulled you out!
What water?
You were shot! See there, the bullet! Oh. Look, there is a number for a bank. Why was it in your hip? Why was it in your hip? Yeah, in your hip, under the skin.
Oh, God.
Yeah? You need to rest.
You know, I mean, it just blows your mind if you had that. But then the fact of also how cool is it to wake up with these amazing survival fighting language skills that you had no idea you had, right? So like you just wake up and can whoop anybody's ass. You can speak like 14 languages. You know what I mean? Like you know how to disarm a guy in 3 seconds. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that whole thing was cool. And then that whole journey of figuring things out little by little, it was just like the perfect setup. Instead of usually, you know, action movies are like, here's the backstory, here's the detective that goes against everybody else, right? He's a loose cannon, probably has a little bit of a drug problem, and then you just kind of see them find themselves, like metaphorically, right? Yeah. They have this sidekick or like a child or something that brings them makes them grounded. But this is like, no, I literally have no idea who I am, and I'm whipping ass just because I absolutely have to. Because not only do I wake up with all this stuff, but now people are trying to kill me, and I don't know why. Yeah. You know, so like, let's add another layer to it. And so that's kind of what the initial of just like, oh my God, look at how cool this is. And of course, the fight scenes were really, really cool. The driving, you know, like the first time I saw like a really cool chase scene with like a beat up old Mini Cooper or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was a Mini Cooper, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you know, Italian job and all that, but those are like nice, new, decked out. Like this was a piece of crap, you know. Yeah. He's driving around a hoopty, but he still eludes everybody on like, you know, the stereotypical henchmen on motorcycles and all that stuff. And I don't know, I just thought the whole thing was cool. Not to mention at the very end, the whole like use a guy to kick through a damn stair rail and then fall down probably like 6 flights of steps, using the guy as a cushion as you shoot like 2 people in the head on the way down. Like, I mean, come on. At that point, other than like The Matrix, you hadn't seen anything like that. But this was, unlike The Matrix, this was like realistic in that he is messed up, right? He is hurt, he's limping, he's bleeding all over the place. And you're like, okay, I guess you could believably do this. And if you're lucky enough, you could survive. And I don't know. I think that was the whole thing of it, like all of these cool situations and fights. And you're like, you know what? If you were skilled enough, you could probably pull all of this off. Whereas in The Matrix or something like that, like, yeah, you're not jumping in the air and staying there for 8 seconds. You're not, you know, pulling a helicopter by a rope. So it was like the fantasy of being just such a badass that you didn't even know you were. Yeah. But also the reality of like, well, he actually was trained and could do this in real life. So all of that together lends itself to why I just thought it was the coolest action movie and have loved it. I can rewatch it over and over and over again. I'm one of those people that like bought the DVD, then I bought the Blu-ray, and I watch it over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about, as I was watching it a couple days ago, the whole time I was watching it, I was remembering iconic scenes that I had forgotten were in this movie. Like, and it wasn't like it happened and then I remembered that I had seen it before. It was like I knew it was going to happen. Like this, the scene at the house where he blows up the propane tank. Like for some reason, like that's stuck in my head. And I'm like, oh, this is the movie where that happens. And then once we approached the end of the movie where there's like 5 minutes left, I was like, oh, this is where he rides the dude down the stairwell. I was like, oh, yes. And I started like laughing and smiling.
Just think of that phrase. This is the one where he rides the dude down the stairwell. like where else can you say that? That's why this movie is amazing.
Yeah, it was like, and even my girlfriend that was sitting next to me like started smiling. She's like, I leaned over. I was like, is this where he like jumps with the dude down the stairwell? She's like, yeah. And she got really excited. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like just reliving
think about that. You know it's going to happen. You remember it, right? Yeah. But it's still amazing. Like you still want to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's not like, you know, a lot of times when you get, action movies are all going to have some cool scene, some cool fight scene, hanging off a helicopter or doing something.
Yeah.
But not a lot of times where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is where he's going to do this. And like, yeah, I'll go grab a snack and I'll be right back. Like, you don't want to miss him riding the dude down the stairway. Like, that's just how impressive. Because there had been nothing like that. Like, there was no other movie that did anything even remotely close to that. And just think about like that kind of problem solving skill, right? Like,
right, yeah.
I'm at the top of this stairway.
What do I do
There's
now?
two dudes. Like there's a guy trying to kill me. I can't make it down because he'll definitely get me. I got one bullet left. Here's this dead dude. You know what? I'm going to ride him down. And hopefully this works out, I've made it this far. Screw it. And so, yeah, like that is just, I don't know. It was just incredible.
It's definitely one of those iconic action scenes, like I guess in action movie history.
Sure.
Like, that you can recall that one. Like, oh yeah, that scene from Bourne Identity is like one of my favorite action moments.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Well, kind of like, so you talked a little bit about just why it's your favorite just action movie and how much fun it is. Like, what's the deeper meaning behind it for you?
So I think the deeper meaning of it for me is like when, I think this movie came out in 2006, if I'm not mistaken.
2002.
Somewhere. That old?
Yeah, 2002.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yep. 2002. All right. So I knew it had like a meaning of events in my life. Okay. So 2002 is when I met my wife.
Okay.
2006 is when we got married. So that's where I had it mixed up. Okay. So around that time we were, still dating obviously, and saw this together. And right around that time, 2002, 2003 is like right before I went back to school after dropping out. Right, I went back into college, 2003, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, type of thing. Hadn't really found voiceover yet. I was still kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, but voiceover the seed had been planted by that time. I just wasn't in it, I wasn't into it. And also, dating this really awesome lady, and where is this going to go? And it tied in for me with this movie of like, again, here you are dropped in this situation. You've met this amazing person, but like everyone you date seems amazing at first, right? So it's like, okay, met this amazing person. I dropped out of school trying to be a rapper and all that. That's a whole other episode, I'm sure. And so trying to find what was I going to do with my life, right? I knew I needed to get back into school, but what was I going to do? I had heard about this VO thing, had been doing some radio, but, and I loved it. But what do I do with this? I was originally a bio major, but now I'm like, I think I'm going to switch to media communication because I just I fell in love with being behind the microphone. And so here I was on this, however big movie screen, faced with this person that was kind of in the same situation, obviously much different scenario, but the same situation of like, you wake up and you realize like, what the hell am I doing? Where am I? Who am I? Who am I going to be? And how do I figure out how I'm going to get there? You know what I mean?
Wow.
And the whole concept of the film, if it were just like, he wakes up, he kicks ass for an hour and a half, and then the credits roll. Like, no, it's because he's trying to answer some questions. He's trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and who is this guy trying to kill me? Wait, do I trust this person or do I not trust this person? Okay, he seems to be helping me. And then he meets, oh my goodness, what's her name? Helena? Is that her name?
Marie.
Something Kreutz. Marie. I'm way off on my names. So that's, Marie Kreutz. I do remember that. So he meets her, and of course that ends up being like this partnership, right? She helps him out. But it also didn't follow like that stereotype of like, oh, now it's like they're looking into each other's eyes and they have this romantic moment, like right out of the gate. Like, she doesn't trust him. He's just trying to pay her for a ride. They get there, it's the hot water doesn't work, right? So that causes a distraction. Next thing you know, some dude like rappels in through the window with a machine gun.
What is it? Something wrong?
Right? And now he's fighting this guy. Also iconic side note of him stabbing the dude in the hand with a pen.
With the pen? Yeah. Oof.
Oh my gosh. Like
I forgot that happened.
Like,
and I was like, oh.
Yeah, man. It's like every time I see it, I'm like, damn. Anyway, so, here you have this relationship that starts. They don't know each other. She's helping him only for the money. He needs her just to figure out what the hell's happening next. And here I was dating this amazing woman. I'm at a crossroads in my life of like, I had dropped out. I need to get back to school. What the hell am I going to do? And, stuff goes wrong in life, and stuff was going really wrong for him. And so, yeah, it just kind of paralleled the concept of how, the process. The movie is all about the process of him finding it. And it lasts for 3 movies. And then that 4th movie with him again, it is like he knows who he is. He knows the story. Now I just need to kill everybody that did this to me. And so for me, it was like that same kind of, I don't know, I just saw a parallel and like, wow, he's going through all this. And when he discovers his skills, he's not like, oh, hey, now I can snipe somebody out from 50 feet away. It was like, when the guy asked him for his papers, and I don't remember what language that was. Maybe it was German.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it was he was in Germany at that point.
And he like answers back in German. He's like, oh, crap, I know German.
Der Park ist geschlossen. Sie können hier nicht schlafen.
All right.
Zeigen Sie mir Ihren Ausweis.
No, I don't.
Ihre Papiere.
I don't have any papers. I lost meine Papiere. Ich habe sie verloren.
Genug. Stehen Sie jetzt auf.
Ich muss schlafen.
Los, hoch. Hey, aufstehen. Hoch.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, getting exposed to something like VO and then pursuing it later, it all kind of tied back to me. I remembered the movie of like, you start to realize things you're capable of while you're trying to figure out what you're capable of, if that makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
getting turned on to VO and being involved in radio, and then I kind of just did it on really just like a hunch of like, people told me I got a cool voice, so I'll check out radio. So I went to WKNC at NC State and was like, hey, can I be on somebody's radio show? And I ended up co-hosting a hip hop show there for like 2 years. And like, wow, I'm pretty good at this. And then getting exposed to VO kind of through that, and then through a professor at school, like, hey, I think I can do this. And then as it went on, and the first time somebody paid me to do it, I'm like, okay, I can do this. You see what I mean? And then like, as the relationship grew with my girlfriend at the time, I was like, wow, we're still together. We're still happy. Like, I can do this too. I can be in a serious long-term relationship. So I just always remembered his process, even over the course of the sequels, of like still trying to figure it out. But it's not like he just stops living to figure it out. No, he still keeps pursuing it. He still moves forward. He gets punched in the face. He falls down. He gets hit by cars. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he still has this like undying need to find out who he is and what happened. And so for me, it was like, once I kind of started pursuing the career, I was the same way. Like, I had this tenacity of just like, I need to pursue this because I need to find out if I can really do this. And here I am 15 years later, from really doing it as a professional. And obviously I was able to do it. So that's like the kind of weird tie-in to an action movie that I kind of paralleled with my life.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, that's actually a super insightful answer. Like I almost, when you were talking about when you were going to see it in the theater, I thought you were going to say, and all these trailers came on, and I was like, I could do that.
Oh no. No. Although I guess, indirectly maybe, but no, it was kind of a deeper thing and it didn't really manifest at that time, right? Because this is before I went back to school in 2003. So obviously it's after the movie, but I remember being like, and this is, back in the day, right? When you had to, you watched the movie and then you had to wait like 4 or 5 months for the DVD to come out. Yeah. There was no streaming or anything. And so it was like, I remember.
And also back when we went to movie theaters.
Yeah, that too. And I tried, before this, before Earth closed, my wife and I, we would try to go to a movie like once every couple of months just for like nostalgia. Like, we kind of like the sound and the huge screen and all that. Yeah. But yeah, like I remember this was the first time that I was like, when is this going to come out? When is this going to come out? Like, I gotta see this again because, you know, really taking you back. Like, I didn't want to have to rely on like trying to do Napster or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I actually wanted this. I wanted the physical copy of this to watch it whenever I wanted. And I remember like trying to look up if I could search like, when the hell is this thing going to come out? And like being at the store the day it came out and purchasing it and then watching it that night. I mean, that's how much it resonated with me. And then as as life happened and stuff was going on, I started to realize I had a deeper connection over time with this character, with this movie, that I was not anticipating. Again, the initial thing was just like, this is a really cool movie with stuff, people getting shot, things crashing and stuff blowing up. Awesome.
Yeah.
Real visceral. But then it later became like, damn, like I'm doing the Donovan identity. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out where I fit in this world. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it's one of those movies that meant more to me the more that I watched it and the more that I matured and grew and life happened to me. It made me appreciate the movie even more.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like that happens with the movies that we like so much that we watch over and over again. Like we either find new things to appreciate about it. Maybe there's a bit of dialogue that we missed or something like that. Maybe there's something in the background of a scene that is a joke that we missed. But also finding like a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding of kind of what we're watching.
Right.
Do you remember kind of when that dawned on you that Jason Bourne is an extreme version of Donovan Corneetz?
Yeah. I think it was after probably like 05-ish. I mean, because I graduated from state in 05, like I said, after going back in 03. And so around that time, I was fully on knowing that one day I wanted to do voiceover. I just couldn't do it yet. So I still had the 9 to 5 and all that stuff. And so it was in that journey of like trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to watch Bourne Identity again. So, just kind of pop the DVD in. And it was just one of those times. So I'd say somewhere around 05, 06, maybe that's another reason why I got it mixed up with the year it came out. Is that it just kind of tied into I'm trying to find myself. He was trying to find himself. He figured out things he was good at as they happened. It's not like he said, now I'm going to try to fight this guy. It's like, no, the dude tried to hit him. He blocked it, and then he whipped 2 cops' ass without even knowing it. And it was like, oh, crap, I should probably leave. You know what I mean? Like, so that whole thing. And, some things he tried didn't work out. Most of it did, though. And he just kept fighting and going. And I don't know. So I think it was somewhere around that 05, 06 when I started to really decide what I was going to do with my life. And going back and watching it again is when the connection kind of was made for me.
One of the things that I think struck me again watching it a couple days ago is during like these action sequences, and I think it's because nowadays we're kind of used to different kinds of action movies. Like we have superhero movies that are very action oriented, but something that superhero movies, comic book movies, whether it's Marvel, DC, whatever, rely a lot on is witty dialogue, which makes it like more fun, I guess, than epic.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you have exceptions, but one of the things I noticed while rewatching Bourne Identity is that tons of the action sequences, there is absolutely zero talking going on. And it was so cool to watch like a 5-minute adventure fight sequence in the U.S. Embassy where the only dialogue you hear is just like people screaming and like radio chatter, like vague radio chatter. And he's not doing anything the whole time. All he's doing is listening and paying attention.
You, red bag, the red bag, stop right there. Put your hands up.
and it's
Yeah,
just
and
one.
he's
Yeah,
just trying to get the hell out of there, trying to survive, and figuring it out as he goes. Like ripping the panel off the wall.
Yeah.
And he realizes like he can look at a map one time and memorize it.
Yeah.
How cool would that be? Side note. But anyway, and so it's like, like you said, I mean, there's no looking at the camera, that wink, wink, no kind of trash talking thing. Like you said, in these superhero movies, they kind of rely on that to keep you interested with your attention span. So it's like, oh, we got to have Iron Man say something, kind of a little dick comment he has to say or something.
right. Or
some kind
even
of
movies
snark.
like the James Bond movies where there's a fight scene and then he always has a one-liner at the end of them. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't need that. Don't need that in this one.
Yeah, you
because that's
don't
not
need it.
that's
You
not the
just-
type of movie it is.
It's not, and that's not his character. And I hadn't thought about it till you said that. I mean, there's really not humor in the movie. You know what I mean? Like there might be one or two little awkward exchanges, like when he offers her the money, he's like, I'll give you $10,000 to take me to Paris, another 10 when we get there. And she's like, yeah, I don't know. And he's like, all right, well, can I have my money back? She's like,
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they're in the car.
What is this, a joke? Some kind of scam?
No, it's no scam. And I'll give you another 10 when we get there.
Is that for you?
Look, you drive, I pay. It's that simple.
Scheiße.
I got enough trouble, okay?
Okay. Can I have my money back?
So things like that are kind of humorous, but there's no comedy in any of the movies. And I think that that's great because there's nothing to take away from the core story. And that is Jason Bourne's journey to figure out who he is. And what's really cool is like, and it happens in the film when he realizes he's an assassin. Mm-hmm. It's not like, yay, I found out who I am. All right off into the sunset. It's like, oh, crap, I kill people for a living. And then that kind of makes a temporary break in his relationship with Marie. And, so then another great thing is that it's not all like good news, right? Even when he finds out, he's not happy about it. He's not like, oh, okay, cool. Back to business as usual. It's like, oh, crap, who did this to me?
Yeah.
And they're like, why did somebody brainwash me into becoming this killer? He's not okay with it. There's lots of movies where there's sort of a bad guy you root for, right? Like a guy that has done bad stuff, but he's still the protagonist, right? Mm-hmm. So, but you never see him or her ashamed of it. They like own it. They know it. Like, yeah, that's right. That's who I am, because they remember who they are. Mm-hmm. Whereas for him and for his, his partner, it was a huge shock. Like, oh hell, I'm an assassin.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, like I kill people. And as he starts to remember little pieces, and he's like, I think I tried to kill this dude. Now, why do I remember his name? Nkwano Wambosi. I can't remember Marie. Anyway, but so I think that's another cool thing about it that was so unlike any other film, period. But specifically an action movie that relies on you saying like, when they, you see that they're a bad guy, they're popping pills with no water type thing. They're kind of a jerk to everybody, but that's like part of them.
They're already established as like an anti-hero from the start.
Exactly. Yeah. But you root for them, but they're the anti-hero. Exactly. But this guy, you're like, oh my goodness. Like, you're figuring it out with him. And then it's like, oh hell, you're an assassin, which I guess you kind of already know because of the people that are looking for him. And that he tried to kill the guy.
Like, it's something shady, and you don't know exactly what it is. But you can tell that everyone else is against him.
Exactly. And even when you think like, all right, this guy is not a good guy, he kills people. But what's the reason that all of this fell apart for him? Is because he wouldn't kill a guy in front of his kids. Mm-hmm. Right? So he's about to, he picked, like they said, like, you pick the boat, you pick the time, you pick the date, and you were supposed to make it look like an accident or an inside job. And so he's there, he's got the gun right at the dude's forehead. He stowed away on this boat for days to pull off this hit. But his kids are there. And it throws him off. The brainwashing that he had received couldn't break through that like innate desire to not do this in front of his kids.
Right. Yeah.
And so then he just tries to abort. He gets shot in the back. Boom, he falls in the water. And then that's where the story starts. But, it was like, okay, they give you a genuine reason to be like, even though he's an assassin, you realize he was brainwashed to be an assassin. And then somehow, even through all of that, he couldn't do it in front of the guy's kids. And that's why this all fell apart for him, the life that he knew. So I think that also lended itself to being just such a unique way of introducing a character and developing a character as the story went on. And like you said, a lot of times people are just an established anti-hero. But no, that he's not that at all. He has no idea, so you don't know. And then even when you do know, you're like, yeah, but he doesn't like that he's an assassin, even though he assassinates a number of people throughout. Yeah. It's not like he stops killing, but he's killing with a purpose now, not just because those are orders. So I think that's
self-preservation.
Self-preservation and survival. That's all it is, because people are trying to kill him, so I got to kill you.
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite scene from this whole thing?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, I think that first big fight scene in the apartment with the dude kind of crashing through the window and I think the fact that he completely acted on instinct, like there was no like, hey, who are you? What's going on? Like, no, the guy comes in and he's this like long fight scene and he's not using a ton of weapons. I think it's like a knife and a ballpoint pen. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the MacGyver way of kicking somebody's ass. And so, but then like he finishes fighting this guy, smashing his head against the floor, and he like snapped his leg in two, and he's trying to get answers. And then the guy gets up, runs out, jumps out the window to kill himself. Right?
Yeah. Open that. Tell me what's inside. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Réponds-moi. Qui est qui c'est?
Oh my God.
Was willst du hier? Wer bist du?
God. Oh.
Answer me. Who are you?
He's got my picture.
Right,
this is Zurich.
No.
I don't know how. Where do you get this? How do you get my picture? Where do you get this from?
I'll do this. You stay there. Stay there.
After all of this, he's like, all right, we got to go. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't this, okay, let me figure this out. He's like, all right, look, you can stay, talk to the cops, but like, I got to figure out what's happening. So it was just, I think that was what set up who he was going to be, what his character was going to be. Mm-hmm. Stuff was going to happen that he didn't know. He's going to get literally punched in the face by life and other assassins, but he couldn't just stop and dwell on the issue. Whereas Marie, she's standing there in shock, and he has to like force her to come out. She throws up on the way out of the building. Yeah. This is really affecting her, and he has to be the voice of like, look, if we're gonna do this, like you gotta come on, like you gotta be with me here. If not, then do what you gotta do. Go tell the cops, go whatever. So I think that's why that scene in particular stands out for me, because it sets up who he is, and that stays consistent through all of the sequels from that one scene. And I thought it was brilliantly set up to like, how do we introduce this guy and what he's capable of outside of like the little stuff that happened at the embassy and on the park bench. But this was like the first full-on fight scene. And you realize this is the cloth he's cut from, right? Yeah. These guys that get activated to take people out. And I thought I think that's why that's probably my favorite scene, just because it just ties everything together. You go to the last movie, the third, second, you can go back to that scene and say, yeah, they established that there. He dealt with what came to him, and then he kept it moving once he took the guy out. Well, the guy took himself out, I guess, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Do you think, because, this is like one of a number of movies, a franchise. Right. Do you think they collectively are well put together? And then is this one your favorite installment of the series?
I thought the story was done really well throughout because there are certain parts, and now you're gonna have to go and watch all the rest of them.
Yeah, I honestly,
but,
so
like-
I think the last one I saw, like, of this franchise or whatever, was the Jeremy Renner one, and then I didn't see the one that came after it, the one where they had Matt Damon brought back or whatever.
Yes. Well, yeah, you need to watch it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously. But yeah, so if you remember, like from the end of the first one, right? It's kind of like, all right, he killed the people that he knew about from Treadstone and all this stuff, and then you move into the second one. That's when Pamela Landy comes into
Yep.
it, the new person that takes over, and she's kind of realizes some dark, shady stuff is going on here, so she's kind of helping him, right? And so at the end of the second movie, it's kind of that whole he's talking to her, she's trying to feed him information about what his real name is, and he's like, you should get some rest, you look tired, or something like that. And that's when you realize, like, oh, he's watching, he's there. And then at the third movie kind of takes over from that moment of when he's having that conversation with Pamela Landy. All these names, and I couldn't remember Marie. Jeez. Anyway, it's ridiculous. Anyway, and so I think that's why I feel that they were all tied in well. And then when it comes to that fourth installment where Matt Damon is back, that really is like, okay, this is everything that happened. He's physically, you can see he's older, right? I mean, it's a huge amount of time between movies.
Yeah. I think it's 15 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's something, because I think that was like, what, 3 years ago that came out, maybe?
It was
Something
recent.
like that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe like 2-3 years ago. And so, yeah, from 2002 to, 2018 or 2017, whatever it was, that's a huge amount of time. So, yeah, 15 years, and you see him as like this older guy, right? But he still messed up because of it in the last movie. No spoiler alerts, but he still messed up because of it. But then you really see, like, now on not just what happened to him, but the establishment that existed to allow something like this to happen to him. And it brings to fruition, like, how Treadstone even got started. Crazy twist in there I won't give away. But, like, how the whole thing even got started. And so that becomes of, like, okay, we went all of this time, but now he finally, like 15 years later, now he gets to know how this whole thing even started, how he was recruited, why they chose him to be in this program. Like, you specifically find out why Jason Bourne, or his real name is David Webb, I believe, but like Jason Bourne was born, and you find that out in that fourth movie, because you don't really get the full, culmination of everything in the first three.
I got you.
And so that's why I like it. But as far as like my favorite, I like all of them, as you can tell.
Yeah.
The Jeremy Renner one is trash, but I think the first one is kind of, I would say the first one is my favorite. And each of the movies have really cool moments, like really cool scenes. I don't remember which movie it is. I think it's the third one, the big fight scene with the guy Desh in Morocco, where he's like jumping through like apartment windows, and it's like he's chasing each other, and they're jumping through doors and windows, and they're fighting in like a bathroom using like a book and like a washcloth. It's ridiculous. And I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say just because of how everything gets introduced, him as a character, the whole Bourne series as a storyline. Yeah. So I think I got to go with the first one. And plus, look at the stuff they introduced, like we talked about, like jumping out of riding a dude down a stairway. Like, there was nothing like that in 02. Like, 2 years ago, I mean, there's still cool stuff, but don't get me wrong, there's really awesome fight scenes in all of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of other movies had been out by then that did really, like, whoa, like mind-blowing stuff, whereas there wasn't in 02. And so I still, like you said, man, you watched it and you were like, oh my gosh, is this the one where he jumps down the stairs? Like, you still have that reaction, that anticipation, even though you know it's coming, you still want to see it. So that's why I think the first one is still my favorite. Yeah. Not that I thought the rest were bad. It's not. I'm not like, the sequels.
Yeah, no. I mean, you can enjoy every one of the movies of a franchise, but definitely have a one that stands out the most to you, for sure.
What about for you? Like, what did you, like, outside of stuff looked cool? Did you feel anything other than, just the, hey, that's cool. That blew up.
I don't think I had. I mean, and this is just. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. It's at least 2 now. It might be like 3 or 4.
Twice.
Because I feel like I've seen it again since it first came out. I could be confusing with the other ones though. But for me, yeah, I don't have too much. The one thing I really enjoyed about it was how tight the story was and how they made like the story structure itself and the dialogue and just was super like efficient and minimal. And one of the things that I thought was really cool is they, in the very beginning, they set up enough exposition for you to know what's happening, but, and also establishing that, okay, the movie that you're about to watch is going to be him finding out who he is. And in essence, like that whole movie could be classified as like exposition because you're just finding out more and more things as the entire movie goes on. But it's packed in an entertaining and revealing way because that's what his journey is supposed to be. Like, okay, you're introduced to the fact that like, okay, this guy is confused as you are, dear viewer, because he lands, you know, like you said, he wakes up on a boat in the middle of the ocean and is like has no idea what's going on, but can speak French well enough. And he's got and some kind of LED chip in his hip that a makeshift doctor takes out and discovers it's got some kind of like bank code on it. Yeah. And you're introduced to all this and you're like, man, I don't know what's going on either. And just the way that that the movie gets you on his side immediately without either of you knowing anything about who he is as a person.
Very well done. And I think just, if I may, like, while he's still on the boat, another really cool scene that I forgot about, but when he's standing in the mirror and he's asking, who are you, in like 5 different languages. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's really, you know, that's coming together that early in the film. I mean, that's like 5 minutes in. Yeah. And he's staring at himself in the mirror. Who are you? And then he starts saying it in all these different languages, hoping something will click. So there you get introduced really quick and efficiently what this guy's capable of, right? He doesn't know he can speak these languages. It's just coming out. And he genuinely has no idea who he is, and he's frustrated about that. And yeah, that sets up that this guy's not going to stop until he figures out, you know, what's going on here. And I think I wanted to ask you that because of you being, you know, a filmmaker, you're behind the camera and writer and things like that. So I was curious of what you thought of it from, you know, that kind of technical storyline, setting up characters, you know, standpoint beyond just cool stuff to look at.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me too, because when I go into a movie, I usually go into a movie with an expectation based on kind of its genre. Like if I'm going to watch a sci-fi movie, I'm like, okay, I have a lot of suspension of disbelief I need to embrace in order to watch this.
Right, exactly.
Same with fantasy. If it's some kind of like drama thriller, I kind of have to convince myself to enjoy the ride a little bit, because rather than try to pick it apart. And the same with action movies too. Because if you go into a movie kind of with like a critical mind, it could end up ruining the movie for you. But I feel like in this sense, it holds up as a fun action movie and as a really cool, just kind of like, I mean, it's a really good movie. And from a technical standpoint, I just think it does so many things so well and has so many iconic moments that happen inside of it without it feeling like those moments are there for pure shock value. Like it could be a bad movie with really cool fight scenes and you probably still remember the fight scenes, but it's actually a very solid, simple movie with so many, that's executed well with so many of those memorable scenes like we talked about. And one of the things that I've, you know, watching this movie's been out for 18 years old at this point, and looking back and doing this podcast, I'm like, knowing that when I watch these movies that people want to watch, I know I'm going to find actors in there that I'm like, oh shit, this person's in that movie. And that was the case. Like I forgot Clive Owen. Clive Owen.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say Clive Owen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot that Chris Cooper and Brian Cox were in this movie too. And the funny thing is too, so Walton Goggins, you know who he is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the little like situation room. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the techs.
I noticed that when I watched it, yeah.
And then when Julia Stiles shows up, I was like, oh, I forgot she's in these movies. Like I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's that's really cool because when I rewatched it just to refresh for this, and I was like, oh snap, that's him. Like I forgot he was in this, So it's funny we had the same.
And then the actor that plays Wombosi, I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah, I don't.
But he is. I recognize him from Lost. He was in Lost for a couple seasons.
Okay.
And then the other lab tech or assistant research tech or whatever, not Walton Goggins, but the other one, his name is Josh Hamilton, and he's in a bunch of stuff. And he's in a movie that I recently saw called Outsourced from 2006, and it's about it's about a guy. That's how all movies start out. It's about a guy who works for like an American novelties manufacturer. And one of those like places where you get a catalog in the mail and you call up and you want to order like fake vomit. So he runs a call center, but his entire division gets outsourced to India. And so they're sending him to India to oversee the call center. And so it's a whole like fish out of water type of thing, but it's really funny and actually inspired a TV series that ran on NBC for like one season. But that was like an obscure thing that I noticed. I was like, oh, that's the guy from this movie that's
the guy from The Thing.
Yeah, the guy from The Thing. That's how. Yeah, that's all people recognize. Yeah, go ahead.
Side note: I have a redeeming moment. Marie's middle name was Helena. Look it up.
Okay,
that's why I said Helena. Marie Helena Cruz.
And
because you brought up Goggins. Because when he Goggins, when he like is showing his name, that's when he's like, they're like, find out everything about her. He gives her full name. So boom.
There you go. That's what
that.
Yeah, I do remember at one point that she was going by Marie, but she had another name.
Like a different name, like her mother's maiden name or something, like some weird thing that they didn't find at first. Yeah.
When they were living at the house, the guy that lived at the house, I think, said her other name that she goes by or something like that.
Yeah. That's her brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's her brother. I don't remember the other name, but yeah, and again, you get reintroduced to his soft spot for kids, right? Because they're hiding out there, and as soon as he sees like the little bike and the toys, he's like, "We gotta go." He sees the swing set or whatever. He's like, "We gotta go." It's like, "No, what do you mean?" Like, "No, we gotta get out of here. I don't want to put these kids in danger."
He's not there either.
And he looked by the car?
He's not anywhere.
All right, let me get dressed.
Who?
Oh, bloody dog's gone missing.
Does that happen a lot?
Oh, that might miss his breakfast, not a chance. There's always something, right?
Get in the basement.
What?
Get everyone in the basement right now.
What the hell are you talking about?
You're in danger, your family's in danger. I don't have time to explain.
Wait a minute, what the...
Eamon, you should go.
What the hell have you done?
It's not her, it's me. You need to get out of sight and in the basement as quick as you can.
So even after all of this stuff happens, he still at his core doesn't want to hurt the kids, right? He's worried about the child, even as he's, like, where's the dog? That whole thing of like, oh crap, something just went on. Like, you got to get them to the basement, or they got to go, or whatever it was. And that's when the whole, he shoots the tank and for the distraction, and Clive Owen, look at what they make you give. I get the headaches, the terrible headaches. And then like in another movie later, Jason Bourne says that to the guy that he just beat the hell out of. He's like, do you get the headaches? Look at what they make you give. And it was just one of those, kind of tie-in storyline. Yeah. Even if it was one or two movies later, they still stayed true to the character. That's why I think for me, it's like the best action movie franchise as far as, beyond stuff like you said, the fantasy and the Avengers and all that kind of stuff. But like just a guy trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. I just think it's really, really well done. And it made me want to go read the book, the Bourne Identity book and stuff. Although it's weird seeing the movie first, because now I like picture Matt Damon playing in this, as I'm reading it, and mentally I'm picturing him when it's not him described. His physical features are not Matt Damon at all. But I think it's really cool, and I'm glad I decided to stick with my gut and pick it for this podcast. Yeah, this was a really cool opportunity, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, will do, man. Later.
One thing I really admire about this movie is that it doesn't overcomplicate the story. It knows what it is. It's a fun and impressive action roller coaster that focuses on one single character goal. And because it's well executed, I'm confident it will still be enjoyable another decade or two in the future. Big shout out again to Donovan for sharing the Bourne Identity with us, and also a huge thank you to you for listening. Are there any other action movies you think we should revisit? Please let us know by tweeting at FilmNutsPodcast or emailing us at hello@filmnutspodcast.com. If you like what you heard, please subscribe so you'll stay up to date with more episodes. And please rate us and leave a review to let us know how we're doing. You can also follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at FilmNutsPodcast. Okay, that's it for this week. Until next time, here's hoping we can all safely visit the countries Jason Bourne was in soon.